over the last 6 months.
Not a lot changes for ONC. He finds something he likes, and he sticks with it, and of course he wins quite a bit. One of the very best players in the world, starting off here 3-0, playing against Ben Friedman. No slouch in his own right. Black-white mid-range. He's going to deploy a pack rat along with the Mutavault on the second turn of the game. He is dabbling a little bit in white here for a couple copies of Obsidian Ghost Council in the main deck, as well as some other spells in Banishing Light and Elspeth Sun's Champion. Turtenwald is going to cast a Devour Flesh to take care of that pack rat right away, but no third land, even though 26 this weekend.
Yeah, he doesn't have the third land. That was a pretty good opportunity for him to be able to Devour Flesh a pack rat. Had he waited another turn, if Ben waited another turn, he could have used that Mutavault to protect his pack rat from Devour Flesh.
Turtenwald was actually on the, he was on the draw. I take that back. He didn't miss his third land drop. I do apologize for everybody at home here. You see a Lifebane Zombie taking a look. Turtenwald going to take a draw here.
Yeah, and this is one spot where Owen actually has, well, I was going to say he has a bit of advantage. He has changed his deck some. He's playing his Lifebane Zombies instead of Nightveil Specters now.
And that's exactly what he's going to deploy. So he's going to take a look at a hand of double Devour Flesh, a Hero's Downfall, and a Swamp.
So just kill spells everywhere. That makes
par for the course.
Owen's double pack rat hand look a little worse.
Friedman will untap. You see him take a draw here. And don't forget, the splash in his deck is mostly for double white cards in Obsidian Ghost Council and Elspeth Sun's Champion. He does have a lot of lands that produce white mana for Godless, Shrine Fort, Temple of Silence, 3 Plains, and an Orzhov Guildgate. Just doesn't have a second one just yet. He's going to start by firing off a Devour Flesh, targeting Turtenwald to take care of the Lifebane Zombie. Fire Mutavault come across here for 5 points of damage.
Yeah, now this is one of those spots where a Nightveil Specter could break board stall because neither player is playing them. I think we're just looking at Underworld Connections or maybe Elspeth from Ben's side that's going to break this game.
And sometimes you'll see in Black-White Midrange a split of 2 Underworld Connections and 2 copies of Read the Bones. You've got a 3-1 split here for Friedman in favor of Underworld Connections, as Turtenwald does miss his land drop this time. Friedman going to fire up a Mutavault and come across in the red zone here. I have to assume something will die, and it will. Hero's Downfall will take care of Lifebane Zombies, so Mutavault will get 2 points of damage through. Turtenwald's going to go down to 14. Friedman does have a land in Godless Shrine, so there's your second source of white mana.
Yeah, Owen's just trying to be as efficient as possible with that play, even though both creatures are about of comparable value, so you'd wonder why spend that instead of the Devour Flesh. I think he's worried about getting run over a little bit, so he just wants to make sure he pays 3 mana for the 3 mana spell so that this turn he can play 2 spells.
Pack rat number 1. Let's make it pack rat number 2. So Turtenwald did find his 4th land. Devour Flesh will take care of 1 for Friedman. You know, Turtenwald has to slug through these removal spells that he knows Friedman does have. But there's a pack rat on the table. That is a Mutavault for Ben. Looks like he may fire up his other Mutavault. And he will. In for 2 we go. Turtenwald going to go a little bit lower, down to 14. Now their Hero's Downfall to take care of pack rat. So Owen looks like he's done a nice job of getting all this removal taken care of. Now he's just got to deal with these Mutavaults that are on the table.
Yeah, Owen still has his Devour Fleshes left, and he also has Desecration Demon. He's hoping to sneak one of these demons or rats by Ben's removal wall. I don't know if he's going to do it just yet.
And Ultimate Price is going to take care of that. Mutavaults are going to come in. Turtenwald's going to take 4. He's going to go down to 10. If you ever wondered how powerful Mutavault is, I think that answers the question. It is one heck of a magic card. Yeah. However, Friedman out of cards right now, so playing off the top of his deck.
And this is often, I think, what we see in these mono black mirrors. We see a lot of 1-for-1ing, and both decks are better at killing things than they are at winning. So we just basically see both players come down to having no cards, and then whoever can top that card advantage, or maybe sometimes a demon is the one who gets there.
Lifebane Zombie is cast. Going to take a look at a Devour Flesh and a Swamp. You saw Devour Flesh take care of one of those. Devour Flesh is going to take care of 1 Mutavault and 1 Lifebane Zombie. So both players being exhausted, and you see this a lot when the mono black mirror does happen. Just exhausting resources, then it comes to who can top deck better. Sometimes Underworld Connections is involved, of course.
Yeah, Ben is correctly getting Owen down. Because he's getting Owen down low, the Underworld Connections is not as good on Owen's side. He made after, if he were to draw it, say, at 4 life, it's no longer that good of a card. He has a pair of swamps. I think he's calculating right now whether or not it's better to lay a swamp or save it for a pack rat that he hasn't drawn yet.
I also think there might be a little bit of bluffing there as well to make it seem like he does have some action as he does go down to 6. No sense in passing the turn very, very quickly and giving away information, as Friedman is going to fire off a Thoughtseize, C2 Swamps. Coast is clear for Mutavault, so here it comes again. Turtenwald goes down to 4. Let's see if Owen can draw some action this turn. Looks like he may have picked up a Thoughtseize of his own. He's just going to play a Swamp and pass the turn back over to Friedman, who will draw. See if he wants to fire at Mutavault yet again. Going to lead out with a Whip of Erebos, and now Mutavault's going to come in. That'll gain him 2 life up to 24, but more importantly, Turtenwald goes down to 2. He needs an answer.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard-pressed to find an answer to both the Mutavault and the Lifebane Zombie that Ben's going to whip back.
See Ben picking up his graveyard. This is a Lifebane Zombie. Turtenwald will take a look at a Banishing Light, pass the turn back. That information may be important for the next game, but I don't believe he's going to be able to win this one, assuming a whip activation does take place here for Friedman in just a moment.
Yeah, it's going to go and I think he's going to whip it, and Owen will scoop in response to that, most likely.
Yeah, and that is exactly what's going to happen. Ben Friedman going to win game number 1 here over Owen Turtenwald. Black-white mid-range up a game over Mono-Black Devotion. Both players will head to the sideboard, and we will do the same. You have Owen Turtenwald's in front of you. What's our Mono-Black player have?
Well, like I said, is not too much of a change from what he's done before. So he has 4 Duress. He has 4 Doom Blades. That's actually different than the Dark Betrayals that sometimes you've seen in the deck. But he has 4 Doom Blades to complement his 2 Dark Betrayals. Otherwise, he has the regular pair of Erebos, and then a couple one-ofs, a trio of them, a Read the Bones, a Bioblight, a Pithing Needle. In this matchup, I would imagine of course, we see Dark Betrayal. And outside of that, you just want, I think, to get more card advantage. So you'll see things like Duress, like Read the Bones, and Erebos all coming in the matchup.
Other side of things here for Friedman, you'll see 2 copies of Sin Collector, 2 Duress, 2 Pharika's Cure, an Erebos God of the Dead, an additional copy of Whip of Erebos, an additional Obsidian Ghost Council, as well as an additional Banishing Light, the 4th Underworld connections, a Deicide, 2 Doom Blades, and a Bioblight. A lot of options here for Ben. Jeez. 2 Sin Collectors I like a lot. I think I like Duress as well. Everyone boards into this discard package. I think you got to like a 3rd Obsidian to be able to bring into this matchup. Not sure if you need an additional Whip or even if you want the first Whip in this matchup. How do you feel about that card?
Well, what I like about Whip is its interaction with Obsidat, because if Ben can get Whip plus Obsidat online, Owen doesn't have an answer to that, and he'll eventually kill him with it. Outside of that, I think there's probably still enough value for Whip to be worth your time, and I would probably still board them in the matchup. But what I like about Ben's deck is that he has a lot more tools. He gets to be the threats deck. You know, he has Elspeth, he has Obsidat in his deck. He gets to also have a really good answer in the form of Deicide to take care of the Ereboses that are in Owen's deck. Whereas Owen wouldn't have the ability to kill that kind of card.
Yeah, Underworld Connection is a 4th one here hanging out for Turtenwald. You can make an argument for the additional Banishing Light. You could even make an argument for copies of Pharika's Cure as well. So, as you mentioned, Ben has a lot of options at his disposal right now, as both players do finish up sideboarding. Of course, Cedric Phillips, Matthias Hunt, and Patrick Sullivan. We're bringing you the coverage along with Andrew Shrout, Nick Miller, and the rest of the Star City Games live crew at SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI for your tweets all weekend long. We're in round 4 of 16 of our Invitational. After this round, we'll, of course, be heading over to the Legacy portion of our tournament. We've made some pretty large announcements this weekend about Star City Games Game Night, as well as the modern Premier IQs that we're bringing to Opens beginning in Baltimore. But something that we're bringing very soon, as in this weekend, is our brand new addition to the Creature Collection Squirrel Series. There you do see Acorn Mystic. You see the play mat, the dice bag, the deck box, and the sleeves. And of course, any Legacy Open that you do enter, you'll get 2 of these Squirrel tokens.
I like the Acorn imprint on the rock behind him. That's probably my favorite part of this card.
It's important to have a favorite part. What's coming next?
It's adorable.
In our Creature Collection Series, who knows? But I know that this one is one that people have been really happy about once we made the announcement. So again, you can check these out beginning June 13th, which is later this weekend. Definitely do check those out on StarCityGames.com or any Open Series event that you do head to, as we will be traveling the globe even more this summer. I'm looking forward to that. All of Season 3, along with Season 4 and our Players' Championship at the end of the year.
Yeah. Going back to our match. So despite the fact that they all have these weapons post-board, I kind of talked about how Ben has more threats, more inevitability. I think at the end of the day, when you look at the matchup of these decks post-board, what they board in doesn't matter as much because both players still have a bunch of Duresses and a bunch of Thoughtseizes, and that's really what shapes the post-board games. Is in the first 3 turns, you generally just see both players tear apart each other's hand, and Duress and Thoughtseize are kind of cards that they don't really care what what they're taking. They're just going to take a card. And so both players are left with next to nothing, and then it becomes a top deck war. Ben does have a few more live top decks than Owen does have, but that's about it.
Yeah, it looks like he's got some bigger draws, as you mentioned. It seems to me as though Obsidian Ghost Council is the biggest one of the bunch.
Absolutely. Obsidian usually answerable in this matchup. Mono Black doesn't have too much of a difficulty killing him. The big thing is Whip of Erebos plus Obsidian. If Ben can assemble that, that should lock out the game.
Yeah, we'll see how long the game does go here between these two players. Ben Friedman on your left, Owen Turtenwald on your right. We've got to watch some fantastic Magic so far this weekend. Did a deck tech with Matt Costa and his mono black aggro deck that he's playing this weekend. Definitely head over to our coverage page if you want to find out more information about that. I've also seen some green black devotion as well. Jerry Thompson and Eric Smith both playing that deck. I believe our interview with Jerry Thompson in the sideboard, him and Nick Miller will be available after this round for you guys to enjoy as well. So some players bringing some different standard decks to the table this weekend due to what happened in Providence last weekend. If you're playing this Invitational this weekend, what are you doing battle with?
Well, I think because this metagame is so open, we see, 7, 8 decks be playable. I think a lot of it has to do with comfort level. So I would be tending toward a control deck, not necessarily because I would be trying to get the best control deck I could for the metagame, as opposed to thinking, what deck do I want to play? I would be on what build of this deck do I want to play, And I think if you're a mono black player, you'd say, do I want mono black? Do I want black white? Do I want black splash abrupt decay?
It seems like this format may be a format just of preference, and as you mentioned, being comfortable. Here's a Thoughtseize from Friedman. You'll see 3 copies of Our Flesh, a Dark Betrayal, and a Read the Bones along with the Swamp. And Read the Bones is going to be quickly taken. It's just a handful of removal here for Turtenwald. Don't forget as well, Turtenwald's list for this weekend, 26 lands. So I'd be imagine if he doesn't find any over the next couple of draw steps. You saw his first one was a Swamp.
Owen's certainly not going to get pack-ratted with a hand like that. There is some concern that if Ben has an Underworld Connections, he'll have a free roll on that and could run away with the game.
Temple of Silence here for Friedman, his first white source. Again, he does play 4 temples, 4 godless shrines, an Orzhov Guildgate, and 3 planes to help his white splash. See if Friedman has a discard spell he wants to fire off. It looks like the answer is yes. A Duress, same things to choose from as last turn. Just a Swamp added to the hand. So there goes the Dark Betrayal. It's 3 Devour Fleshes and a Swamp. Turtenwald does draw a Mutavault for the turn, so he may have some interest in playing that, and that's exactly what he will do as we bring it over to Friedman. A Banishing Light the draw step. Ben just going to play a Swamp, and now Underworld Connections, the card you mentioned.
Yeah, Underworld Connections is huge in this matchup. Remember, Mono Black does not have a way to get one off the board. And, Underworld Connections is going to do a lot of work against Owen's all Devour Flesh hand.
An activation here from Friedman. He's going to go down to 15. He will take a draw. Mutavault is what he has found. You can see a Plains and a Godless Shrine in his hand right now. He's trying to figure out just the best way to go about navigating this game. He'll play a Godless Shrine tapped and pass the turn back. That is his second source of white mana that he needs for Obsidian or Elspeth, as Turtenwald draws a card for the turn. Will he fire up a Mutavault? The answer is yes. Friedman is going to go down to 13. Again, we do know that Turtenwald has 3 copies of Devour Flesh in his hand. And it looks like a mystery card. He's going to play a Swamp before kicking it back over to Friedman, who draws a copy of Ultimate Price. So a lot of removal here for both players.
Yeah, well, this is something which is true about all the control decks in Standard right now. So Mono Black Control, or Mono Black Devotion, which is more or less a control deck, and Esper Control, is that they are just giant stacks of removal spells for the most part, which means a card like Underworld Connections is really powerful in these matchups. So many of their draws don't interact. The player who has Underworld Connections can just really sit back and do next to nothing.
Ben going to take a turn off and get Whip of Erebos into play. I think that's a perfectly reasonable line. You see Turtenwald's going to move in here with a Mutavault yet again, simply because he's not underneath that much pressure.
Yeah, well, when one player has Underworld Connections, it's on the other player has to start going aggro in this matchup. It has to be Desecration Demons, Gray Merchants, a lot of attacking. If Ben gets a card like Whip of Erebos down, now this life gain will stop any sort of attacking that Owen can do. And that coupled with the card draw should pull Ben through.
Elspeth is going to make 3 tokens here. You see Friedman basically stabilizing at 10 life. Turtenwald draws his card for the turn. Has not found the greatest of draw steps over the course of this game. Looks like he may have picked up a Desecration Demon for his draw. Along with those 3 Devour Fleshes and a Swamp in his hand, he's got some real work to do to get through these Soldier tokens, this Elspeth, and that Whip of Erebos.
Yeah, he can make the demon. Unfortunately, Elspeth can just slay it or can keep it tapped. Owen can try to Devour Flesh away these tokens, as miserable as that sounds. But I don't think Owen does not have good things answers that match up well with what Ben's doing. You know, he doesn't have a downfall for the Elspeth. He's black, so he can't deal with the enchantment, and he can't deal with an artifact. So all these plays that Ben made, they get to just stick around.
Now, part of the reason that people move towards white as a splash, of course, is to have a better matchup against the mono-black versions, or just this sort of overarching matchup in general, be it black-green, be it mono-black, be it black-white. You've got access to Blood Baron, Elspeth, Obsidian, Banishing Light, plenty of good options, Deicide as well, to take care of opposing Underworld connections. You see Ultimate Price is going to take care of the Demon. Friedman looks like he's going to fire up the Mutavault. Hasn't activated Underworld connections just yet, but he says, I'll start by attacking you for 5 and potentially gaining 5 life.
Yeah, this is why a lot of the black decks splash different things in them, is because the mirror is to get a lot of advantage in the mirror. This Owen's behind on deck list here, and as you can see, he's behind on the board as well. Mono black gets a better matchup against the fast decks of the format, but in a matchup like this, the fact that Ben's punches punch a little harder is really going to carry him in a lot of these games.
Orzhov Guildgate the land, that is played. You see Elspeth does make 3 tokens, not 4. An accident there by Friedman, as Turtenwald will draw a card. Again, he's stuck with those 3 Devour Fleshes in his hand. He does have 2 Mutavaults in play, as well as a Dark Betrayal added to his hand as well, but no good attacks to be made, as Friedman's going to activate an Underworld connection. He'll untap all those lands and a few of those soldiers as well. But the player on the left here, Matthias, is certainly in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if there's a way that Owen can actually recover in this game. He has 4 kill spells, but the kill spells don't do anything against any of the 3 cards that Ben has cast. So Owen's just not interacting. He's not winning, and he's not answering.
Friedman going to activate Underworld connections yet again, using his life total as a resource. Will play a Swamp for the turn. Has not activated Elspeth or Whip just yet. Looks like he may fire up the old Mutavault, though, and feels comfortable enough to come on into the red zone. Turtenwald going to attempt to do some blocking here with Mutavaults. Those will be 2 soldier tokens. Ben's okay with that exchange, simply because Elspeth is going to make more.
Yeah, there's no reason. These aren't real resources that Ben's giving away. He's just pushing damage. Elspeth's up to 7. He can ultimate it. He may just continue to make 1/1s. I don't think he has to really concern himself with how he plays the game at this point.
Desecration Demon, they come into play. Dark Betrayal will take care of that. Turtenwald will untap, still with those 3 copies of Devour Flesh in his hand. Picks up a Swamp for the turn. Moves those Mutavaults back into the land row. Ready to activate those again to attempt to block, but I think, unfortunately for Turtenwald, those creatures in play will actually be in the sky due to Elspeth. As Friedman does draw a card, he will ultimate Elspeth right away. No fear of Bile Blight here.
One thing I like about how Owen plays is that he continues to play to whatever out he can in every game. This is a spot where, you know, I think a lot of people would have already packed it in, but Owen continues to make, like, technically correct decisions at each point.
There's a reason people believe he is the best technical player in the world right now. He may not win this game, but he's going to give himself the best shot every time out. You see what Erebos is going to bring back. Desecration Demon, Mutavault will be active, and all these creatures are going to want to attack in just a moment. We'll see if Turtenwald has any way to respond to that, as Demon's Trigger is placed on the stack. Mutavault will go active. It'll sacrifice to the Demon. It'll be a 7/7 for a moment before Whip says it has to go away. But here comes Friedman, an extension of the hand. Ben Friedman wins this match over Owen Turtenwald. 2-0. Black-white mid-range moves on to 4-0.
Yeah, pretty good clinic there, game 2, of the power of Underworld connections in the mirror. A lot of games in the mirror post board can end that way. And I don't really fault Owen's hand either. When you look at it, so it was a lot of Devour Fleshes, a Read the Bones, a Dark Betrayal, and 2 lands.